everybody, welcome back to Everyone's Addicted. Today's guest, D.E. Foster, has come on to talk about his knowledge and his experience with addiction. And this addiction is something that is near to my heart because it is something that is not talked about very often, and it affects a lot of people. And when we're prescribed this, we don't really know the effects we're going to have later. So I'm so excited to talk to him and bring more awareness to this, but I won't say much more because I feel like I'm going to be stealing his interview. So, welcome, D, and yeah, let us know a little bit about you and what you do.
Thank you, Jasmine. I appreciate the intro. Yeah, my name is D.E. Foster. I run an online support group called Uneven Life. It's at unevenlife.com. And I've been in the realm of benzodiazepines, helping people with benzo injury for over a decade now. Been doing it for a long time. I do medical research, have co-authored published papers on benzodiazepines. I wrote a book which is called Benzo Free: The World of Anti-Anxiety Drugs and the Reality of Withdrawal. Published that back in 2018.
Where can people find it?
Co-founded, yeah, they can find it on Amazon. So just look for Benzo Free on Amazon and you'll probably come up with the book. So thank you for that. Yeah, and so I've been working in the area of support for people that have had issues with benzodiazepines now for about 13 years. So supporting other people that are going through this is my own experience. I had it too. Took Klonopin actually as prescribed by my doctor for 12 years. It took me 18 months to come off the drug, and I am now 11 years benzo free, but I still have ongoing neurological complications of it. So thanks. Yeah. And one of the things too to mention too is I work with both addiction and dependence, but I work a lot more with dependence, and that's a good thing to differentiate because
Hmm.
there's two worlds there, and a lot of times people have to deal with both. Sometimes they only deal with one, but it's something to differentiate. I only had the dependence issue, but I
Same
help
here.
people both. Yeah, I had help people who are both dealing with addiction and dependence. But a lot of the people actually have taken the medications as prescribed by a physician and wound up physically dependent on the drug. And so that's a lot of the people we support too.
And what I've noticed because when my usage was during COVID, it
Hmm.
was so easy to just call your doctor, say that you're having a panic attack, and get written a script. Do they explain to you all of these effects afterwards? And your body gets dependent on it within 2 weeks. And
Right.
so if they give you three refills, that's 3 months of using it. So your
Hmm.
body is going to become dependent on it no matter what. And that is, and yes, we're coming to you for mental health reasons, but you're like even if you want to get off of it and go to therapy, do EMDR therapy, whatever it is,
Hmm.
you can't even, or if you want to do psychedelic plant medicine, it won't work for you because you're on these kind of drugs. They stop you from being able to get the effects of these other methods or modalities of healing, and you're stuck with this dependency, and it just always takes away your dopamine. So the physical dependency and coming off of it with the physical aspect is causes even more mental stress on top of it. So I feel like,
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, it can also become coming off of it, even if it is just a dependency, starts to make it a mental dependency because then you're worrying, well, how do I get more? What do I do? Like, it's,
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, because it does. You're right. I mean, I work with people every day in our groups and everything, and we work more with the mental health side than we do with the physical because like you said, there's very little adjunctive medications you can use to help you. We've not really found another medication that helps you come off benzos. It's really just getting free of that medication, letting the body heal over time. We do try to promote, like you mentioned, therapy. We promote a lot of non-medicated modalities of trying to help people come off it, like with meditation, mindfulness, a lot of things to help you find a better grasp and acceptance of what's going on. But there's not much we can do medicinally. We just can't. Other medications, like you said, don't really help. We found very little evidence of those being helpful. So it's more just coming off very slowly. And that's the other thing too. I always want to make sure I say up front, if you're on a benzodiazepine and you hear this and you're afraid of what it's doing, please do not stop cold turkey. Okay,
Oh,
these
I did.
drugs are very dangerous. Yeah, and can be very dangerous, even lethal, if you stop taking them cold turkey. So please work with a physician and taper slowly if you choose to come off the medication. Always want to say that up front in case anybody gets on here and suddenly wants to stop taking the drug. That's dangerous. Don't do that. Okay.
I actually say at the end of my show
Uh-huh.
that like for the TV aspect, I say anybody who's coming off of alcohol or benzodiazepines
Yes.
cold turkey, go to the emergency room right away
Oh,
because you are going to suffer. You could possibly suffer seizures and you could
yes.
possibly suffer a few other things. I won't go through the whole thing I say, but I do
Yeah,
say
usually
I make
seizures, hallucinations, whole body
yeah.
tremors are the common ones you can get immediately with an instant detox. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's scary if you're alone. And so I always
Oh God.
have the little disclaimer if you're coming off booze or benzos, cold turkey, always make sure you go to the emergency room. That's like
Yep.
my little disclaimer because
And they will probably put you back on your benzo, which is okay because then they want you to slowly
they
come
can
off it. They
wean
will
you off.
exactly. They will
Because
probably do that. Yeah.
what happened to me was I was on 2 milligrams. I was doing really well on that. And then
Yep.
my mom called the doctors because she was so mad that he was giving me this medication because she's very into holistic plant healing.
Hmm.
Like so even with colds, she would use like certain types of plants with colds and stuff. Like so
Okay.
she just really doesn't like Western medication.
Yeah.
So she called him and yelled at him and said, you already killed my husband. You're gonna kill my daughter. Screamed and screamed at him. He put me down to zero point 0.5 from 2 milligrams. And that's when I really started to notice
Yeah.
this huge difference.
Wow.
I wasn't
Yeah.
weaned down slowly. And I
No.
know from being an ex addict that you're supposed to be weaned down, not just cut, cut, cut. My doctor like he's not a therapist, he's not a psychologist. He's just handing them out because people are calling him and asking for them and using the right terminology to get them. You know what I mean? It's the same
Yeah.
thing as what people would do with any other pills. It's drug shopping, or doctor shopping, I guess you could say, right? Or just knowing what to
Yeah. And a
say.
lot of people I know are caught with that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of people are caught with that. Like I said, actually with benzodiazepines, one of the unique thing is most of the people who struggle with the dependent side don't have the addiction. We do have a subset that also is addicted, but a lot of them have taken these drugs as prescribed and never developed the addiction piece, but they developed the physical dependence. And it's confusing because nobody ever talks about that. Nobody ever talks about the dependence to these drugs. Thankfully for people like you, we get the word out about addiction and how to deal with that and maybe ways. I know you work with people on different unique methodologies of dealing with addiction. But there's really nobody out there except for this small community who help you with that physical dependence piece, which is can be an association with addiction, but can also be its own, disease and its own illness, its own problem to deal with. And that's
Oh,
what
yeah.
I had. And it's bad enough as it is. And I feel for the people who have both because now you got the craving and you have the physical complications of coming off them. And it's a tough world. I was on it for 12, I was on Klonopin for 12 years, taken as prescribed entirely by my physician. I tapered for 18 months and then I jumped off of a 1/4 milligram of Klonopin at the end. And that doesn't sound like much, but
It is.
it's equal to 5 milligrams of Valium because Klonopin and Xanax are the two of the most powerful benzodiazepines out there. They're very potent, and so a 1/4 milligram is basically I jumped off of 5 milligrams of Valium at the end because I didn't know better. And I had a lot of problems. I had a lot of problems because of that. So, and yeah, and we now help people. So we really walk people through how to come off the drugs, how to do various different things like liquid titration. They can do pill cutting. We do gram scales. We do micro tapering. We have all kinds of techniques we can help people who choose
Use the
to.
Ashton method.
Yep, actually, Ashton is. I know the professor. She passed away, of course, 3 years ago. But I work with her son on some of the stuff that we've done, and she was amazing. Ashton was the first one to really have something out there to help people with dependence to benzodiazepine. So yeah, she's. I actually have a tribute page for Ashton on my website because She was the godmother of benzodiazepine
That's
withdrawal. Yep.
when I was, because you know when you're getting off something, you want to read as much as you can about what's going to
Yep.
go on with you, and everybody was talking about the Ashton method, but
Uh-huh.
when everybody would come back and say, "Oh, my doctor's not helping me with this," bring them the Ashton method. Maybe they're not aware of it, and yeah,
Yeah.
they would talk
And,
about
and
it so
we
much.
have yeah, and just so you know, we have newer ones that are even better, but they all feed off that at the core now. So we've
Yeah,
developed new things like we have I was on a panel for the American Society of Addiction Medicine that just created a deprescribing, which is, tapering off of benzodiazepine guideline we published in March, April of this year. And it's the first clinical guideline for doctors to tell them how to do this. So you mentioned to me earlier in Canada, there's not much education. I'm hoping this guideline, as it grows here in the US, also crosses the border and starts to affect doctors in Canada. But this guideline is significant. It's probably the game changer we've been looking for to educate doctors on how to come off these drugs properly and how to caution them about overprescribing because they prescribe them just too freely. They just, like you said before, you go there, you say you have a problem, they say, well, here, take a benzo, take a Xanax. And like you mentioned, after 2 to 4 weeks, you can develop dependence on it.
even famous people like, okay, I'm gonna say like the Kardashians, for example. I was
Yeah,
watching an episode and they were like arguing. One of them's like, just take a Xanax.
I
So
know.
it's like so like, oh, it's okay. It's not a big
Exactly.
thing to take these
No.
things. Oh, it's not gonna like, oh, just take a Xanax. Just take a value.
You nailed it. In fact, I
Yeah.
have a chapter in my book that talks about all the celebrities and the language that we've used because yeah, I've seen it in movies, I've seen it in song, I've seen it in TV shows repeatedly, and it's treated like it's just something you can quickly take and there's no problem.
Yep. And just like,
Um,
oh, here
yeah.
you go. Who cares? But there is,
Yeah.
and then there's like we both talked about, there's lasting effects after you're done too. After you're
Yeah.
done tapering, there is still physical effects. You might be mentally okay in your like mental health, but there's still like for me, I I would not call it blacking out, but what happens to me
Mhm.
is my eyes, I will not be able to use my eyes and I can't talk. I sound like I'm talking in tongues, and
Yeah.
I have to sit on the floor or hold something or I'll fall over. People would see that as fainting, but I can think. I know what's going on while it's going on, and that
Right.
is an effect of my benzo usage. And I know it
Oh
is
yeah.
because that's when it started, was after that. And I
Yeah.
know that it creates that because of all of the ways that it affects our brains with the taking away the dopamine and like it also can I think that there's more to it than it's just affecting us creating less dopamine. I
There
don't.
is, and I could actually talk to that real quick. That's one of the studies we did in our research was there are three primary effects that can hit you from benzodiazepines. One, of course, is addiction. You know that well, that's the craving, that's the impulse, that's the need and the desire for more and more drug. There's also the physical dependence, which are physiological dependence we talked about, and that's the body's adaptation to the drug, and it gets used to it through homeostasis. And then when it's withdrawn or you reach tolerance, then that drug doesn't work anymore, and now you face all these symptoms. We found in our studies that we did, and we released a paper 3 years ago. Um, we found this neurological component and which we have identified as bind, and that's benzodiazepine-induced neurological dysfunction. And so we identified bind, published it in a medical journal, and it actually is now gaining traction. In fact, even that recent guideline from American Society of Addiction Medicine mentions bind in it. So there are really three elements, and the bind is that protracted state. Some people have called it pause, which is post-acute withdrawal syndrome. But it's that one that can last months or years after you stopped taking the drug
I've heard
because
those
it's
horror
altered.
stories.
Yeah, because it's altered your nervous system. I have that. I am 11 years off Klonopin and I still have bind. And I still am affected daily by the neurological alterations that this drug did to my body. I believe I'm still healing, but it's a long, long
It is
process.
because it's a drug that does so much to your brain,
Yes.
and it's a
Yep.
brain. It's like it. I can't think of the word. It is the drug is associated with your brain, and it does so much
Yep.
to your brain that like I didn't understand before I ever
Yeah.
took it. And Like my effective buying is if I'm stressed out, that's when I have these little whatever
Yeah,
you call it. And I know it's like that effect of that, like you said, that acute withdrawal shooting me back real quick. You know what I
uh-huh.
mean? And then I'm fine in like 10 minutes. I don't, but I know also people, and I've read stories about that they're like 5 years and they still have a hard time getting out of bed because they're
I know.
so their
I work
body
with
is
them every
so
day.
messed up.
It is so hard.
Bad.
And one of the things we do know is, I mean, there's several factors that the benzos affect in your body, but one of the key ones is actually your GABA A receptors. And these are your receptors of neurotransmitters. So GABA in the body, really simply, calms us. Okay, so GABA neurotransmitter calms us down. Glutamate revs us up. Okay, so glutamate excites us, GABA calms us down. What benzos do is they connect to the same receptor and enhance the GABA. So they increase the calming effect of GABA. Over time, that connection to those GABA A receptors downregulates them, meaning they
Hmm.
become less and less receptive of that calming message. And so finally, when you reach tolerance or you come off the drug, now your calming receptors can't receive the calming message anymore. So it's like a car where we have the accelerator locked down and we have no brakes. And
Pretty
so
much.
that's exactly what you talked about. Yep. And so we're in this almost constant state of fight or flight. And because we don't have the chemical or the neurological ability to calm ourselves. Now, that does come back over time, but it also can take a long time. And
Depends on
I
the
know
person.
I'm much better than I was when I came off the drug 11 years ago. But am I fully healed? No.
And
I still have complications.
that's what all of the things that I have read have said too.
Yep.
It's you can feel healed, but there's always still complications. And
Yeah.
the thing is, okay, on a pack of cigarettes, there's a pretty big damn warning label on that. Now, when you
Yes.
get your little bottle of Klonopin, there it says take as needed. There you go.
Yeah.
They don't even have like that thing you peel back with like,
We did.
a
We actually got that
disclaimer.
added. We got that added in the US in 2020.
We don't
The
have that.
I know the Food and Drug Administration added a black box warning on. It was a second black box warning on benzodiazepines that actually mentioned complications of long-term use. Now, it wasn't a very strong one, but it was there. But you're right. The problem is when you get that prescription and you get that printed off, list of symptoms from your doctor that's 5 pages long, it's in there somewhere. But who reads
Uh-huh.
that?
And
Who
also,
sees that?
they also give you a mental health assessment to
Yep.
read as they give you that
Uh-huh.
medication. And you're more focused on what's going on with you
Yeah,
than
you're
what's
not paying
going on
attention
with
to it.
that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because you're like, oh, this is a lot of information for me to take in
Hmm.
to help myself. And this miracle drug has been able to give me clarity so I can look at this and
Yeah.
seek help in other ways. But I still have this back miracle drug that's not really, like you
Right.
said, you hit tolerance, or when I've heard, I never hit tolerance, but I've heard that that is
Yeah.
really, really bad. Not like almost the same as going cold turkey because it just stops working for you.
Tolerance is stuff, yeah, because basically what it means is that you need more of the drug to get the same effect. And so tolerance is when your body adapts to the drug enough that you need more to get that same effect. And that's when people start to updose. That's when they start to take more and more. I started at 1 milligram of Klonopin. I was at 2 milligram, like yourself, by the time I finally withdrew and came off the drug. So because I needed more to adapt to it. I didn't know at the time I was in tolerance. Now I look back with the information I have. That's where I was. I had symptoms, I had problems, I was in tolerance, but I didn't know it at the time. I didn't realize it.
That's where our clinicians and therapists are not taught enough about this
No,
medication. I don't
no.
feel like they are. And so the way they prescribe it so easily, they need to have more education on it. It's just kind of like the
Yep.
oxy epidemic. They just give them to you, especially when it was um the COVID, because anybody who was in there, anybody could get it because, oh, it's COVID, right? And they were just
Right.
handing them out. But they in Canada will never give you a higher dose than 2 milligrams. I know
Good.
people when I read some of the boards in the States and
Oh,
they'll
some are
be
on
on
6 or 8.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, how are they like on
I know
it's
somebody
so
that was on 10 of Klonopin. I
horrible.
know.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And she
That's
CT'd. She cold turkeyed. It was a disaster. She was actually
ooh,
one of my first interviews on my podcast. Thankfully, she's still doing okay today.
thank
And there are
God.
people, but that is just, that's
Those
like jumping
people,
off the edge of the Grand Canyon and hoping you land on a
yeah,
rock, or something and don't fall all the
like,
way down. It's really
yeah.
dangerous.
And
So,
that's where the longer term
yeah,
effects and trying to like with weaning off of that high of a dose, you're
yeah,
gonna go through all these little withdrawals, little withdrawals, little withdrawals, then you're gonna get off, and then you're gonna have to deal with life and all this stress. And if you're having cravings, like they don't
yeah,
have anything out, like they don't have a program to go to for this.
right.
I mean,
No,
to
you don't.
or
Yeah.
information.
And there are becoming ones, but most of them were created by peers like myself.
Yeah.
Is that, thankfully when I came off, there were some support groups, and this was, 12 years ago. But there were some organizations out there, some support groups. I found some of them. Benzo Buddies is one of the ones that's been around forever. People find that first. And
I
then there's
think
some
I'm on
other.
that one.
Yeah, I think most people start at Benzo Buddies because it's got a huge footprint out there. But then people usually go to Benzo Buddies, they learn a little bit, and then they go to some of the better, support groups. Benzo's Buddies is a good information source, and for people to first learn about it. But there's much better organizations that are more based on science and have more experience from the medical side. I work with doctors all the time, and the research I do in organizations we co-founded. So I'm always working within the medical to make sure that what we do is evidence-based, is science-based, and not just anecdotal like some of the other
Yeah,
sites. So we're always trying. That's one reason I got involved in research was I wanted to make sure information I was providing was based in science and wasn't just, hey, I saw this work, so it must work for you. Well,
yeah,
that's not usually the case with benzos. Each
yep.
person is really different in this experience. And so you don't want to assume what worked for you will work for the next person.
And I always say that in recovery in general, one size doesn't fit all.
It
So I
doesn't.
try to
Nope.
like, so people will come to me and I will like tailor resource plans for them. So like I'll take
Mhm.
all the
Good.
resources I know, I'll get to
Yep.
know them, and then with what their problem is, I will give them the resources plus the people like you that I talk to, how to get a hold of those people and see if that method works for you instead of just being
Yeah.
put in the box that we have here of oh, benzos
Exactly.
are fine.
Well,
You have to go to
right.
AA and NA for drugs and detox
Um,
and $20,000 rehab, but they never ever say anything about benzos. And like I said, when I first started reading about all of this stuff, like I was reading Core Digest, was where I first started
mhm.
to kind of because I would see people saying things that I was feeling myself, that I would read it and then
Right.
read the comments, and the Ashton method would come up a lot, or just
Yep.
water tapering and just different ways, like in the measuring thing
Hmm.
that you're talking about. And I even talked to my doctor about some of those, and I was at a methadone clinic at this point, so he was an
Okay.
addictions doctor. So this is why I was able to be helped. If I was
Yeah.
just using my regular clinician, he has
I
no
know.
information
Nope.
whatsoever. I was at an addictions doctor who does have that information, and they
Yeah.
do not prescribe those kind of medications whatsoever, right? So
Addiction doctors are some of the first ones to catch on. Now, not all of them. Some of them still don't
some of
know
them are
about
very
benzos.
stuck
I
in
know.
their way.
But
Yeah,
actually, one of the very first, Dr. Stephen Wright was one of the very first people I started working with when we started creating some grassroots work in Colorado. And he's an addiction doctor. And one of the things I loved about him was he would lead all of his lectures when we would lecture. He would always start out by saying, um, "My name is Dr. Stephen Wright, and I'm a reformed prescriber." Meaning, I used to prescribe benzos. I did this in my practice, and he admitted up front. He would apologize. He would say, and then he would talk about what he knows now
that
and
would
the difference.
resonate. I could just
Yes.
feel the
Hmm.
power of the resignation with everybody in
Yep.
that room being like, he admitted it. Then those walls go down and you
Yeah.
start to trust what that person's saying. That's
Yeah.
amazing that he did that.
Yeah, and he's now become a benzo champion. He still speaks. He's now retired, but he's one of the first ones that got me into it. And now I work with doctors from here in Colorado and Vanderbilt, and now with Yale. And I've worked with a lot of different pharmacologists and doctors along the way, and they're just amazing. There's definitely doctors out there who get it, who understand it, and are really trying to do the research and are really trying to educate. And so I just try to help them from I bring the lived person experience,
Yeah. That's what
and
I do with what I do.
yeah,
I bring the lived person
it's a
experience,
huge
and then
yeah,
I
they
give you
need
the
that.
clinical
Yep.
information. But the lived experience makes people resonate and connect with you. So then when you start
Yes.
talking, the walls are go down. I feel like when you talk
Yeah.
to a counselor who doesn't know anything about this and they are just spitting out textbook things and still aren't really
I
like
know.
you know what I mean? And
Yep.
your wall goes
It
up and
doesn't,
you're not
but
listening.
as yeah, as you know, as been of having addiction history and with benzo history, and you know that if somebody hasn't been through it, as hard as they may try, they'll never fully understand. Like I could talk to you. I don't know what true addiction is like. And you know that I'm being honest by saying that. I've not been through the addiction side of things, but I can speak to what dependence is like. I can speak to what that is, and that's what I've been through. But I can't speak to the addiction. I don't know that as well. I don't have that personal experience, you
I
know?
personally experienced, I was dependent on the opiates. I wasn't
Yeah.
addicted to them. I didn't really have to,
Okay.
my body needed it or I would get sick. I didn't really want to do
Yeah,
that,
that's
but
more
I would get
dependence.
sick
Yeah,
and I didn't want to be sick. Same with
right.
the Benzos. I just didn't want to be sick. So
I don't blame you.
and
It's horrific. Yeah,
so it was never like, oh, I want them for like
I
euphoric
got you.
reasons. I want
Okay.
them so that I don't continue to be sick
And
anymore.
that's more the dependence end. Thank you for
But
clarifying. That's what I had too, was I was afraid of the pain of coming off the drug more than I am having the craving, you know?
Oh, exactly.
Yeah,
I just wanted the craving to go away and the pain in my
yeah,
body to go away so that I can move
yeah.
forward. But with alcohol, I was
Hmm.
addicted to that because
Gotcha.
I wasn't like physically dependent. I would binge drink, I'd blackout
Hmm.
drink, but it was because I had social anxiety. So once I had the drink, it took
Yeah,
away that social anxiety
I
and I was
know.
able to go out and live life not the best way, I will say, a lot of disasters there,
Yeah,
but that's true addiction. I was addicted to it because I would wait out in front of the liquor store till it opened because I needed to continue. I didn't
yeah.
continue because I didn't want to feel the anxiety. I didn't want to feel my mental health issues. So I was self-medicating with alcohol, which is the more addiction side.
So many do.
Body,
So many. Yeah.
my
And
body
and the
wasn't dependent though.
Yeah, I grew up. I'm ACOA, so I actually grew up with it. My mom was an alcoholic, so I'm familiar. I've been in Al-Anon for a couple of years, done that. But one of the things to mention is the one drug that benzodiazepines, and you probably know this, is closest to is alcohol.
Why do
Closer
you
to
think?
alcohol than anything else.
Well,
Yep.
that's why I think I started taking them when
Yep.
I did because it was like being drunk, but within control of myself. I was in
Uh-huh.
control of myself, but it was like the same feeling as being drunk where I could function, I could get out of the house. My
Exactly.
agoraphobia was gone, my social
Yep.
anxiety was gone, my CPTSD was gone, and I could be okay. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it that all doesn't last forever. You know
If
what I
only it
mean?
could do that without the complications, but unfortunately, that's
And
not
then
how
you
it
get to
works.
that point where you think about it, like you start to
Yeah.
like realize that your body is addicted to it when you start waking up earlier and earlier needing to take your
Uh-huh.
dose, right? You
Yeah.
start thinking this isn't going well. Like you start getting that
No.
seed planted, like I need to get off of this, right?
Yeah.
And I was just lucky that I had an addiction. I have a really good addictions doctor. They're not all great, but I do have a good
I'm
one
glad you do. That's great.
and she helped me so much. But yeah, I feel like the addictions doctors, if there's anybody out there that wants to get off of them,
Mhm.
go to a methadone clinic. They don't just do opiates, they do every kind of addiction, and they'll listen to you. They'll do you a personalized health assessment, and they will help
Yeah.
you see what this is doing and how you can help yourself without
And
medication.
let me add to that if you don't mind. I just from the benzo side of things is we've actually had a lot of issues with rehab clinics or with some of the treatment centers
Oh, I never.
because
Yeah, this wasn't
yeah.
rehab. This was just a
No, I know. Yeah, but just a doctor is great, but I know there's sometimes tied. I just wanted to mention this for people that might think they need to go to a treatment facility. Is that again, I'm not trying to tell anybody not to do anything or get the help they need. But one of the things, unfortunately, is most of them are not trained on benzodiazepine dependence
That's what
very
I
well.
was just gonna
Yeah,
say. I don't think rehab is the best place for anybody that has a benzo addiction or a benzo
right.
dependency because they don't they are not prepared for
There are a
this.
few, but most, you're right, most don't. And there's a couple things. The downsides is one is most of them try to get you in and out in 30 days. Well, you can't come off a benzo in 30 days. That's
No.
not, and so you need a lot longer than that. And most of them are focused strictly on substance use disorder. They're focused strictly on addiction, and they are not focused on dependence. Most of them, I'm saying most of them. Now there are some ones that are, and I actually was on a podcast a month ago from the Hanley the Hanley Effect podcast, and they have one down in West Palm Beach, and I love that because they actually separate and they identify benzodiazepine dependence and work outpatient with some of those. And so there are some clinics that are starting to learn about it, but unfortunately, if you think going to a clinic is going to get you off benzos, be very careful, is my
Well,
message. Yeah, because most of them aren't trained, and I have a lot of people coming to us who went through rehab and came out worse. And then
well,
we have to pick up the pieces and try to get them put back together and try to get them to come off the drug properly,
well,
you know.
I Googled like when I wanted to get off benzos, I Googled in Canada specific rehabs for benzodiazepines.
Good.
There was
Okay.
only two.
Yes,
There was
exactly.
only two in the whole
I know.
country, and
Yep.
they were both like $20,000 each. They were 60, they were 90-day programs, but
Okay.
they looked at the price and then I didn't dive deeper into what they did because
Yeah,
the
they're
price just
ridiculous.
stopped me. Plus, I was still in that phase of just trying to find myself help in a way that I could afford, you know what I mean? And
I know.
you know, but yeah, in this country, there's only two that help people with
Mm,
benzos, and I
I
don't know
believe you. Yeah.
if they do like what you said, the dependency and the mental addiction to it. I don't know if they work with both. I don't know how in depth they really go with it, and I don't really know because they do take other clients with other addictions. It's not solely benzo based either.
Yeah.
So it's just they're the only ones that also take benzo clients. So it's a
Right.
rehab open to everybody, but two of them take benzo clients as well. So I don't really
Yeah.
think they're going to be the most helpful places if they're helping like other people with drug addictions. I don't think they're going to be focusing strictly on the benzos, which needs to happen. And
Exactly. Or at least that needs to be an element. I mean, it needs to
yeah,
be the conversation of both addiction and dependence. And that's the problem is that most of these places are solely focused on addiction. I do want to say one thing in that, just since, since people look to me sometimes for answers, is that there are exceptions to that rule of not going to treatment center. And one of those, of course, is in severe distress. Suicidal ideation, that kind of stuff. If
mhm.
it's that stage or if it's a life issue, or a violence issue. I mean, if either one of those is going on, um, you need help right away. You need help right away. And sometimes that's the right thing to do because at least they'll get you stable. At least they will get you into a place that you can stabilize. And then later on, organizations like mine, other ones can help you. But suicidal ideation is very high in our community. And so I always want to make sure it's like if it gets to that state, please go get professional help and make sure that you get that help so you can stabilize. And then we can work on getting you off the meds and we can work on, getting your life back. But, when it gets that severe, and I've lost people, a lot of people to suicide along the way. So it's one of those things we always want to pay attention to. So,
100%, even like with me in my own life, I've definitely experienced suicidal
yeah,
ideation,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
especially after getting off benzos
Hmm.
and going through some hardships that were unexpected and stuff like that. I definitely had suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
But that's also not really talked about a lot, you know? So it's almost
It's
like
not, and it
taboo
needs
to
to be
say
talked
that,
about
right?
more. Yeah.
Because then people look at you, and here, if you admit to a counselor that you've had that, they put you in the
Mm,
psychiatric ward for
I
72
know.
hours.
And they medicate you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they medicate you like a zombie. So, and they give you the
Yeah.
drug you just got off. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Typically,
So
yeah.
you gotta
Or
watch
or they
that.
add new drugs to it, and now you have three or four
Mhm.
drugs.
Now you're on
Uh,
SSRIs, Benzo.
SSRI, SNRIs, you got a psychotropic in there. You
Yeah.
got all these different things. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
know
have.
because my brother-in-law, he has a lot of mental health issues and we're staying with
Oh,
him.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
And the list of pill, he doesn't take them because he knows what, like, he doesn't
Okay.
want to go back there. He got off them. But doctors keep making him take them because he has children and they want to make sure that he's stable for his children. They
Yeah.
make him less stable. So so you like you look around and you're like, Darcy, how do you have like six different fucking prescriptions for, like you said, psychotropics? He gets per lorazepam, clonazepam,
Oh God.
gabapentin.
Oh my gosh. There's three GABA drugs right there.
Yeah, and then
You can
there's
imagine what that's
another,
doing to your GABA? It's like that your GABA A receptors. That
and
just
then
is killing them.
an
Yeah.
antipsychotic thrown in there too.
Of course. Of
Oh, so
course.
he's on like, and so he doesn't take them, and his wife gets so mad. It's like, you need to take your drugs. It's like, you
I
don't
know.
understand that if he takes those drugs, he just likes to smoke marijuana. That's all for his mental health. And I think,
Okay.
in my opinion, that is far more harm reduction than him taking all those goddamn pills they're giving him if he just
I'm
wants to
afraid you're
smoke.
probably right. Yeah. And I always want to make it clear, I'm not a medical professional. I can't give medical advice, and I never do.
Mhm.
But I do refer to people. I've worked with over 1,000 people coming off benzodiazepines over the last decade. So I've learned things and I have my own experience, and I can always share that. But so I'm not telling people what drugs to take or not take drugs. I can't do that. Always go to your physician to work with that. But I can caution you to bring that up with your doctor and start having that conversation and say,
Also,
hey,
be pushy about it.
exactly. And become a partner. That's the one thing I learned and I've helped a lot of people is to be a partner with your doctor, not just, subservient and always kind of saying, you have a say in this. You have a say in what you take and work with your doctor as a partner. Do your own research, learn about these drugs, learn about what you're taking and putting in your body, and talk with your doctor. You can always get a second opinion too. You can always go to another doctor and get a second opinion, you know and find out and make sure you think through things before just adding another med, because
And to
it
let
gets dangerous. Yeah,
and they're all doing stuff to your
and
brain that you don't understand.
we
And
still
even,
don't really
yeah,
know
even
most of the
science
long-term
doesn't know.
effects. No,
And I just like with my little weird blackout things, I know that
yeah,
that's something to do with it. And I know that there, wish I did the research prior to taking it
me
that I
too.
had done
Yeah,
afterwards. Do you know what I
me
mean?
too. Yeah.
Because I realized so much and how like so many people like that you said that come to you, they've gone through this for 5 years. And so like me reading
Mhm.
this, I'm like, oh my gosh, but yet nobody talks about it. It's like, oh
Yeah.
no, and like you said, it's so popularized. Like, oh, just take
Hmm.
this Xanax, it's no big
Yeah.
deal. Ugh.
And now they say the same thing with like, with Cymbalta and all these other new with SSRIs and SNRIs, but we're starting to see long-term complications from them too. So there's no I'm a big believer there's no perfect med out there. All medications come with side effects, and in the end, it's about the pros and cons. It's about is this providing more good than the potential risk of the drug? But you need to know about the risks of the drugs, and most people aren't told. Most
And
people aren't made aware
any drug you take, your body is going to get used to it. So you
eventually.
cannot, doesn't
Yep.
matter what kind of drug it is, your body is going to get used to having it in your system. So you're
Yep.
going to have to wean off of whatever it is, or else you are going to feel side effects, not just benzos,
Right.
anything, even if it's a heart medication. Body's used to it. You take it away. It's like
Yeah.
taking it, your body's going to feel that effect.
And
So
a
that
lot of these
is,
drugs, yeah, and a lot of these drugs are beneficial. That's just it. Some of them have, I mean, benzodiazepines. I have never once said we need to ban the drug because we don't. There are situations, and like alcohol detox, as you mentioned, these things are lifesavers. They're lifesavers in ER. If somebody comes in with severe agitation, lorazepam is an amazing drug to calm them down so they can be treated for severe seizures. Benzodiazepines are one of the few drugs that really treat seizures well.
well,
But the
yeah.
problem is they became overprescribed and they're prescribed for too long. And that's the issue that we're running into. So again, just like SSRIs and other drugs, I think a lot of these drugs have some potential to do good, but they get prescribed so freely, so
The
easily,
heavier
and with
dose.
yeah, and heavier doses, and then they add on to it. And I have people that are on 5, 10 meds as a cocktail. where do you start? You don't know what's causing your problems. You don't know what's causing your symptoms. You don't know which one to start to withdraw. Most of the psychiatrists don't really even know how to withdraw properly from these
They
drugs.
don't. That
And
I
it's like, and they're in a nightmare. I have a good colleague I work with, this guy, and he's still on 5 meds. And he's still trying just to figure out how to taper off one of them. And it's a very sad situation of people that are in there. I took SSRIs a couple times along the way when I came off Klonopin, but I never stayed on it, and I'm so
didn't.
thankful I didn't. Yeah,
I
and
didn't like
so no, I didn't either. I didn't either.
They just
But
never sat well in my stomach. They didn't really
yeah.
help me mentally in any sort of way. I gained 50 pounds in 2 months from
Oh,
Lyrica.
some of them, yeah.
And
Lyrica's fun.
Lyrica is a
Yeah.
bitch to come off of too.
Yes.
Like,
I
ugh,
know people that are working on it right now. I have people I work
oh
with
yeah.
that are coming
And
off Lyrica. Yeah.
my doctor gave like I switched doctors. So the doctor I have now is great, but the one I had before, he's a little
Okay.
intimidating. So I was afraid to say no to him.
Oh,
And he
yeah.
kept upping my Lyrica, and upping my Lyrica. I was at like taking maybe 200 to 300 milligrams of Lyrica a
Wow.
day, and I gained
Okay.
all this weight. Um, and my husband said that he knew when I was taking it because being around me, it would make me actually act very agitated and irritable.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and so he's like, you have to get off that. I cannot be like, I cannot live with you, and I don't want the kids around you if you're like behaving this way.
And that's a factor with all these drugs is behavioral situations. That's the other thing. You talk about the dark sides that we don't talk about, like suicidal ideation. We don't talk about violence. Benzodiazepines, including coming off benzodiazepines, um, severe agitation, rage, these are common symptoms.
And the
And,
hallucinations can make you
yep.
angry
Oh,
because you
that's
don't know.
terrible. Yeah. Yep. And actually, even if it's not a full all-out hallucination, we have DPDR, which is depersonalization, derealization. And
Mhm.
derealization is kind of a form of hallucinations. It's where you've lost track of reality. And depersonalization is where you've lost track of your sense of self.
I
And
had
so, and those are,
depersonalization.
did you? Yeah. And those are
Horrible.
hard. And when you add those to agitation, you add those to anger or rage, it can be an ugly situation. And in those situations, like you mentioned, you have to make sure people are safe first.
Hmm.
Make sure people are safe, get people out of harm's way, and then let's deal with the symptoms. Thankfully, those symptoms do go away through withdrawal, but there can be a period where, yeah, it becomes a little dangerous and you got to be careful, you
But
know.
yeah, they said the first 72 hours is the most dangerous because
Okay.
it's detoxing out of your body. And when you,
For the
it's,
hallucinations, yeah,
it's
and seizures.
for
Yep.
the set, once you, it's like the first 72 hours, you're okay, you hit that 72-hour mark, and that's when the seizures and the hallucinations, the
They
sweating,
usually hit early. Yeah,
hit.
they usually
Yeah.
hit early.
Takes about 2 days for it to flush out, but
Some
you're
people it could
still
be up to a couple of weeks, but you're right. They're typically that first time is really sometimes it's only 90. I mean, sorry. Sometimes it's only about 3 days. But
three
and for
days.
some
Yeah.
people it's lasted up. We usually block out 30 days to say that acute withdrawal can last up to 30 days. But you're right, most of that happens in the first week or two. Most of the severe symptoms happens in the first week or two, and then people come down. After that is when we get into that neurological complication, is when we
Yeah.
get into that protracted, that pause, that bind, whatever you want to call it, state. And then we have, okay, this is what you're left with. Now your system's been altered, and this is going to take a long time to heal for some people. And one thing I want to make clear is that we've only seen approximately 30% or so of people who take the drug long term actually have a protracted complication. Not everybody does, which makes our story even more difficult sometimes
Yeah.
because people say, well, I came off Xanax and I did fine. Well, then they don't believe us, the ones who had
Yeah.
serious complications. And I've seen people that have come off Xanax twice. The third time they had bind. The third time they had protracted symptoms. So you never know.
Yeah.
And we don't know
We're all,
why. Yeah,
we're all unique, so it's hard to say what it affected us and
exactly.
how it
Exactly.
affects us. And that's the thing too. And like I said, when I was doing research on those message boards, somebody would say something like, "Oh, I haven't been able to get out of bed in a year because of
Yeah,
all of this," and somebody would be like, "Oh yeah, well I just got off Xanax within like a day
I
and I was
know.
completely fine," and then it
Yeah.
disheartens those people and makes that, like you said, makes that person seem uncredible, or they say mean things to them, which makes it worse because it's like we all feel it differently. I get it. And
Yeah,
I think the dosages and the length of time also have an effect on that, plus the other drugs that you may have been taking along the way with them, you know?
right. And there are a lot of people out there who love being on the drug. And I mean, the biggest pushback we get is people saying, don't take away my Ativan, don't take away my lorazepam, don't take away my, my drug. And number one, we're not trying to take away the drug from anybody. In fact, we believe strongly, most people in the community, that nobody should be forced to withdrawal. This is a hard, complicated, we want to encourage you because of the possible long-term complications. But, if you don't want to come off the drug, that's fine. That's up to you. It is your decision. We really believe in that. But by staying on it longer, you can increase your odds of winding up with dependence and more severe complications coming off of it. And people need to know that when they make that
Yes.
decision.
Anybody who has been on a benzo for over a year has 85% more likely to get dementia as well, which is
Those studies, I've seen those. Yeah, I've seen those studies. There is a link. They have repeated a link in some studies
I
on
could be
dementia.
wrong, but
And
that's a study I've seen.
I don't remember the numbers exactly. And I know that it's controversial, but there have been studies that have shown a possible link between dementia and benzodiazepine use. So yeah, that's been in literature. I think it's still questioned somewhat, so I don't want to just say off the top of my head
Well,
but yeah, we've seen some possibilities of that link. Yeah.
well, with your like the published papers and stuff that you've done, how would anybody be able to find that so they could read that?
Yeah, I can actually, the best way to do is go to my website. If you go to unevenlife.com, and on there on the homepage, you can see my name and click learn more about me. Or you can even go to defoster.com. It forwards to my bio. And on my bio, I list the research I worked on. So there's links to every single paper on my bio. And the ones we published, I published two papers with a group out of Ireland, and I published several from this benzodiazepine work group that I worked with here with doctors out of Vanderbilt and Anschutz Medical Center. So, yeah, we've definitely made a difference. It's helped to stem the tide, and more is happening. In fact, right now, there's a conference going on up in Oregon that a lot of the people that I work with are up there right now doing some education and helping people, and so helping them learn more about benzos. So there is a lot of stuff behind the scenes that's happening right now to change the landscape for these drugs.
I'm
So,
so happy about that. But the reason I asked
yeah.
you links because in Canada we don't got a lot of information, right? So
I know, I
if they're
know.
able to look at some of the published works that you did, I think
Yeah.
that it would really help them understand what's going on with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, be
Not
happy
just
to. And yeah, in fact, go to our website, unevenlife.com. And also there's a search menu. If you just type in research, you will see a lot of blog posts I've had on the research I've done over time and the different papers. Look for Bind. If you look for the Bind paper, that's the one that really identified it. And also look for the ASAM guideline because that's online now. It's public. And that's that one from the American Society of Addiction Medicine. And
that's
that
what I
covers a
was
lot of it.
interested in
Yeah, so
myself.
if you go to my website and just type in ASAM in the search bar, you will pull up the blog post on it, and on there's the link to the actual paper. And so it's all on our site, and we have information about that stuff and everything. But it is published publicly, and it's also, one of the questions I get quite often is, how do I talk to my doctor, especially if the doctor doesn't believe this or understand it? These are the things you take to your doctor. Okay. The ASAM guideline is usually respected by most physicians, or our bind paper are the two things I always try to say take to your doctor. The ASAM guidelines like 200 pages long, so just print out like the first, 15 or something, or take them because it's a long document. But in the very beginning, it talks about the highlights that are in it. But those are things that usually doctors will listen to science. They listen to research and more than they will about your story. And I think your story is powerful, but doctors hear it over and over again. And when they see the literature, which we mean the research, then they more likely are going to change their mind or change their prescribing. And we have affected a lot of doctors who have changed their prescribing habits because of the work we've done.
I kind
So,
of want to take it and drop it off at my doctor's office and be like,
yeah,
here, like not the addictions one, but the one like my family doctor be like,
yeah,
here, because I know he's kind of a lazy doctor, to be honest with you.
okay,
And like he wasn't giving my dad prostate exams, so my dad died of prostate cancer because of his negligence. My dad
Oh
was a
no.
smoker. He said, "Oh, you're a smoker. You have emphysema." My dad actually had congestive heart failure, almost died again there.
Oh.
So something
Oh
about
wow. Yeah.
lazy, giving
Yep.
me pills out the butt because I
Right.
have anxiety and
Yep.
not like so giving him some literature and being like, stop doing this because it's obviously not just doing it to my family. Do you know what I mean? We're
Right.
not
Yep.
targeting. It's everybody that sees him. And like I've had friends that like will say the same thing, like, oh yeah, I got on benzos, this is great, and then give it 6 months and you just don't always want to be, if you're not having the addiction part, you're just sick of having to take the drug. Like you're like, I don't
I
want,
know.
right?
Yeah.
I'm done with this now. This has run its course. It's helped me and went through the
Yep.
hard time, but I'm dependent on it and now I'm sick. And now I'm sick for a long period of time because
Oh
my
yeah.
brain needs to heal. It's terrible. And
Yep.
nobody talks about it. That's why I love that you came on and
I know.
talked about this with me in a very clinical, understandable sense.
Thank you.
Sorry, clinical and sensible way of
Thanks.
understanding it, because nobody talks about it. Nobody. And
I know.
I mean, I've done 200 or something interviews,
Hmm.
and not a one has talked to me about benzos.
Wow.
So when I seen that, I was like, I need to talk to this.
Oh, thank you, Jasmine. I'm so glad you had me on. I really appreciate your attention to this and trying to get the message out. Because it is a big message to get out, and people just need to know that these drugs cause complications and can cause long-term complications, and we need to know about that. And if that's the case, and you find yourself come seek us out, seek out other communities. We have a huge benzo community online, peer-led, of people that have been there, know how to deal with this, and can walk you through. So that, I want to leave with hope because I want to let people know we can help you through this. Whether or not it's tied to addictive, addiction or not, doesn't matter. Okay, sometimes it does and sometimes it's not, but we can help you with that process of getting off the drugs because it's important and it's a scary, frightening thing to find yourself in if you find yourself in benzodiazepine dependence or bind. And we just wanted to let you know there's a lot of people out there that are wanting to help. A lot of people and really amazing organizations. Mine's just one of them, but I can speak to a lot of other organizations online that are really great at doing this and helping people. So,
And so, like, my tip would be that if anybody is
mhm.
struggling, either contact D or Google
Yeah.
other accredited people that can help you as well. But
Mhm.
before I let you go, do you have any little bit of like advice for anybody that might be struggling to step into trying to, heal themselves, but get pushed back from the fear of how hard it's going to
Yeah.
be? Do you have any tips about that?
I do. I do. In fact, when I launched my podcast 6 years ago, in my first 5 episodes, I did a three-part episode on managing the fear, just like you said. And because that is the most important part, one of the downsides of bind or of this long-term benzodiazepine dependence is we get in a anxiety spiral. We get in a fear spiral, and it just keeps feeding us with negativity. It's part of the condition. And so we get so afraid and almost paralyzed by that fear. So it's to first of all realize that's going on with you and to notice that, but also to get support and work with other people. I just want to say how important that is. It's so easy to isolate yourself, but come out here. We run a support group that we have meet daily with people. There are a lot of support groups out there. There's online support groups. There's live sessions. Work with other people. Come and be part of this community. It's amazing how being part and working with other people helps you to get through this. Just don't isolate yourself. Don't think you're the only one that has this. You're not. We understand it. We've been there. There's a lot of organizations that have been there and get it. So seek the help, seek the information. Don't try to do it by yourself.
That, yeah, don't try to do it by yourself,
No,
especially cold turkey. Please don't.
don't. Yeah, do not cold turkey. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Like, I
Yeah,
appreciate this. I've been looking forward to this, and I hated that I had to
thanks.
cancel yesterday. So I was like,
It's
looking
no worries.
so,
Sorry you weren't feeling well. Yeah, I'm glad you're feeling better, Jasmine.
so looking forward to this since we connected. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing everything with you. Don't forget, he also has a book, which was called again.
Benzo free, the just say benzo free. If you do benzo free and search for that on Amazon, you'll find it.
We got that, and like he said, his website he has
Is
Is yeah.
Unevenlife.com.
So yeah, on leavinlife.com, and he has all his papers plus probably tons and tons of
Tons of
more.
information on
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
tons of information. I guarantee it. And if you really had to reach out, he said you can reach out through your
Yep.
website as well, right?
Yep. Yeah, we have a feedback form on there. You can always reach out. That will reach our team. So if you fill out the feedback form, we'll get that and we'll respond to you and help you out.
Well, perfect. You are amazing and you're doing
Oh,
amazing things
thanks.
because nobody is doing this really right now and nobody is
Mhm.
really fighting for this. There's a few, yes, like you, but not enough, and especially
Oh,
in
thanks.
Canada. So, really wanted to talk to you because my television show
Mhm.
runs in Canada and I need
Okay.
people to understand this. I know there's more options in the States, but in Canada, there's not. So, I
Right.
really appreciate you coming on, explaining all of this, and sharing that there is hope out there. So I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Jasmine. It was a pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure talking to you too. Yeah, see, I'm doing words too.
I do it too.
Benzo brain. There you go.
I know that's see, those are the terms. Benzo brain. I've used that term way too often. I know that term well.
Well, you have a good day, and I am so happy that I got to connect with you. Keep in touch. I will probably be reading some of your articles. So,
Thank you.
yeah,
Look forward to talking to you soon again, Jasmine. Thank you so much.
thank you, and have a great day.
You too.